Region Orientation Center here at UBC. I'm John Redmond. I'm the coordinator of the Pacific Region Orientation Center here at UBC.
Oh, well, so tell me, John, what is the purpose of these 3-week programs with PaROC?
Well, the purpose now is to equip the trainees with as many skills possible in as short a time possible for them, in order for them to become conversant with the Canadian academic setting or the Canadian workplace, wherever they're going. And the reason behind that is that if they are as conversant and as skillful as possible, when they arrive in the workplace, they waste no time getting down to work. They're here for a short period of time, so they need these skills in order to exploit the situation to the maximum.
And are there other programs that existed previous to this, or was this a groundbreaking one?
As far as we know, this is the only program of its kind. There is an evolution of this program in that originally the program started off as an English as a second language training program back in about 1983-84. At that time, ESL facilities in China were minimal. The school that we have in China, or that we had until this week, was not really rolling. And the Chinese were coming here with minimal language skills, and it was seen at that time that language was the problem. Chinese were encountering a lot of difficulties integrating into the workplace and into the academic situation. As the program evolved in the mid-80s, it was seen by a number of people, Mackie Chase, myself, Francis Marr, Joy Lynn Salzberg, Diane Liu. It was seen that it was culture that was impairing the trainees' ability to access that which was there in the workplace or the academic place. So it has evolved into a program that is unique. Originally it was not unique because there are X number of ESL programs around the world. This is, we think, the only one like its kind.
Now, you said that your school in China shut down this week. What happened?
Yeah, I think it's this week. The Canada-China Language Center was set up about 10 years ago, originally at the University of International Business and Economics, and then in 85 or 86 it moved to the Beijing Normal University. The Canada-China Language Center was set up to train trainees in language skills prior to their coming to Canada, and also to test them in language skills, to administer one of two tests, a French language test called the Test Can, and an English language test called the Can Test. That program, that school, has been given over to the authorities at that university now. So they are now responsible for that school. The Canadians have withdrawn. The funding is ended, and the Chinese authorities are now responsible for the whole operation. Whether they will be able to continue is a matter of conjecture. We don't know at the moment.
And what's the future like for PaROC? Are there any problems here that way?
Yes, we're very pessimistic about our future. We have heard by through the grapevine, various grapevines, that as part of the federal cost cutting, we are going to be cut, that our program will be axed. Originally, our program was to have ended this month, the end of this month. St. Mary's University, who coordinate the program and administer the program from Halifax, were able to get an 8-month extension through using funds that they had saved over the previous 5 or 10 years. That 8-month extension will take us to the 31st of August, and at that point we think that we will simply disappear.
Is there any way of saving it? Are there alternative sources for funding? Or?
Well, we're slowly getting around to investigating that. I say slowly because we're so busy with the training programs that we don't have the time. We also don't have the expertise. I know that St. Mary's University has been investigating other ways of getting funding. At the moment, we're funded from CETA, through CETA's China desk, to St. Mary's. And then St. Mary's disperses the funds to us and the other 2 centers across Canada. St. Mary's would like to be able to access other desks in CETA's Asia program or other desks in any program at CETA. In other words, they would like to be able to get trainees from the Bangladesh desk or the Anglophone Africa programs or the Francophone Africa programs or the Latin America programs. Unfortunately, nothing's happened. To our knowledge, the people at the China desk view us as being expensive. And to some degree that's true. We cost money. But on the other hand, if trainees are not given this kind of program, then they're going to waste the first 6 months of their one-year program in Canada. And if they're only here for 6 months, they're going to waste the whole 6 months. So, that's the CETA route. There has been talk about a World Bank funding, funding from private industry, because diversity in the workforce is something that we could easily handle. It's very similar, and we have some experience in that. But we haven't seen any movement really from anyone. So we don't know, to be quite honest.
And how long is the average program? Well, you say that that they will be set into the workforce for a year.
Mm-hmm.
How long is the average program that sets them up for that year?
Do you mean the average program by us?
By yourselves.
Okay, our average program is a 3-week program. That 3-week program is for people who are here for 1 year. If people are here for a shorter period of time, then we compress the program. We recently had a half-day program for 3 gentlemen who are going to, I believe it was Alberta, Lakeland College, and also SIAS, Saskatchewan Institute of Applied Science and Technology, for a period of, I think, 3 months. So that half-day briefing was all that we could give them, really. We've also done 1-month programs for people who are here for 3 to 4 months. Or sorry, not 1 month, but 1 week programs for people who are here for periods of 3 months to 6 months. Those sometimes have to be delivered through the native language of the trainees, through Chinese, because in some cases Canadian executing agencies bring over trainees who have bypassed the language program. Because if you look at it on the surface, there's no need for anybody really to speak English if they can gain access to the information another way, through the use of an interpreter or through hands-on or any other way.
So really this can be a very vital cultural service then?
Yes, I think so. I think that it's something that is not specific to the Chinese trainees either. I know that trainees from other program areas have problems when they come to Canada. I know through my contacts in International House that international students in general have problems. Even American students have problems when they come to Canada because things are different. BC students have trouble when they go to Quebec. Maritime students have trouble when they come to Ontario. The minute you leave your own culture and go to another culture, you're operating in a place where the rules are different. And the rules are not obvious. Nobody goes out with a big billboard and says, these are the rules, and this is the way things will operate.
So how did you develop, how do you choose which rules to explain?
Well, we have gotten away from explaining the rules as such. What we do is we look at the trainee's profile, that is their background. We look at where they're going and what they're going to be doing. Will they be in the workplace? Will they be in academia? And then we design tasks for those trainees which will allow them to discover what are the rules. For example, if they're going into an academic setting, we will discuss with them first what they think the roles of teachers, students are in Canada, and ask them what the roles are in China. And we'll set up a dialogue. We'll then have them codify this, write down these observations and predictions. Then they will go out and they'll participate in a number of seminars or lectures, etc. And they will have a task to observe, to interview the Canadian students, to interview the Canadian professors, find out what are the roles, what are the expectations, and then come back to us in the classroom and report to us what they have learned. And then, during that reporting process, we involve other Canadians who come into the classroom, volunteers, students, etc. And we enter into a discussion with them. And we try to formulate what the rules are. The same would be the case for a workplace, anything of that nature.
So that's really not abstract, it's pretty hands-on at every point.
It's hands-on. It has to be given the limited time. And also the fact that if you tell somebody about something, they'll nod and they'll pretend they understand it, or they'll even think they understand it. But it's so different from experiencing it. Now, if they experience something, however brief, before they get into a pass-fail situation, that is in the real workplace, in the real environment, if they can experience that with us and talk about it with us, and if we can coach them, then they have practiced it before they enter the real workplace, the real academic situation, then they are more successful.
And how many people have you helped out in this program? Just a rough idea.
Oh, rough idea? Well, I came on this program in 1985. I would estimate about 450, something like that. Yeah.
For the 450 people out there back in China and all around the world, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yes, almost all of them were Chinese. There have been some Malaysians, some Filipinos, and a few Thais that we've dealt with. There was a period in the late 80s when we were looking to expanding into other areas, and that was cut off for some reason unbeknownst to us. The majority of those people did return to their countries, have returned, and are contributing to the modernization of China and the other countries.
And do you maintain contact with these people?
With some of them we do. However, we are not the primary contact in Canada. The primary contact in Canada is their supervisor, the person with whom they're going to work for their 1-year period or whatever. That person often enters into a long-term relationship with them. I personally had a trainee, Mr. Zhu, and I've maintained contact with Mr. Zhu since he went back to China. I know other supervisors who have similar experiences. However, given the nature of communications in a country such as China, people often lose contact. However, we have been told that World University Service of Canada, who are one of the players in this project, have made attempts to establish an alumni association in China for their trainees, with some success.
Well, and you have had a trainee, Mr. Zhu?
Yeah, Mr. Zhu.
What do you think he took back? You know, he spent a year here. Did he bring a lot back?
He brought back about 10 boxes of Xerox books and other things. Mr. Zhu was an English teacher from China. He taught English as a third language because he was a minority person. He was a Tujia, people who speak a Burmese language, live in the mountains, mountainous region of central China. He taught at a minorities college, and his program was a good example of one kind of program, that is the academic program, but academic without a degree. Therefore, you take an academic and you put them in Canada and you say, here, learn. It's much harder for a person like that than it is for, say, a person who's a veterinarian or artificial inseminator or a geologist, somebody who has a concrete task to do. Now, Mr. Zhu had a very brief training program. He, for some reason, was not included in the group that came before. He was supposed to have come with a group. Came by himself, had a very brief training program, and set to work trying to gain as much knowledge as possible. Now, he's interesting because some trainees have their own agenda. The agenda that was written on paper was that he would take certain courses at UBC, which he did, and he would increase his knowledge of English as a second language. His internal agenda was close to that, but it included also learning about Aboriginal peoples in North America and acquiring a bulk of literature that he could then interpret and use in China, either for monetary gain or for academic gain. So he spent a lot of time as you know, Xeroxing things. And he didn't understand the rules of Xeroxing at first. It's sort of interesting example of what happens. He was in the English Language Institute. He was furiously Xeroxing things, encyclopedias, etc., when he first arrived here, not realizing there's a copyright law, not realizing that people usually limit their access to a copy machine. So he was happily Xeroxing away. The Canadians were observing this and getting angry because they wanted to Xerox also. But they wouldn't say anything to him. Instead, they went to Mackie Chase, our education specialist, and said, "Why don't you do something about it?" And she came back to them and said, "Well, why don't you talk to him? He's another human being. He's somebody who speaks good English. He understands it. He teaches it. Why don't you deal with him?" But Canadians are also looking for an interpreter of that culture, not an interpreter of language. So we sat down with Mr. Jew and we explained what the rules are, because we hadn't thought that Xeroxing is one of the things that we should explain. It turned out it was. And after we explained to him, he was very good about limiting his access to our copier. And I'm sure there are lots of other examples like that.
So, John, could you give 3 short reasons why PaROC should continue, excluding your mortgage?
Excluding my mortgage and the car I want to buy? Well, one reason is that the trainees need it. We found over the years that we've been doing it that the trainees are truly grateful for what we do, and that's a superficial thing, but that they are grateful after they return to China, after they complete their period of training in Canada, because they realize that without our help, their training would have been far less effective. We also know from many supervisors who are aware of our work, that the trainee is able to integrate better into the workforce because of us. I would say that is one reason right there. Another reason would be the overall corpus of knowledge that we've built up at this center and at the other centers concerning intercultural training. And I mean training, not just learning, not learning about things, but actually working and training and doing things. As I mentioned earlier, we are to some degree unique, and we have developed a program that we think is applicable to many other areas. And I think that's the third reason, that if we disappear, then we will not be able to pass on this knowledge to other programs, to other areas, to other executing agencies, to other NGOs, etc. The corpus will disappear because we'll all go our separate ways.
Thanks very much, John.
Thank you, Peter.